The third aunt is timid, but she has a pair of skillful hands, and after a while, 2 sets of small clothes were picked up and handed to Wenbin. Wenbin took the paper clothes, then put them in a bamboo pin, and told his grandmother to make 6 dishes, 3 meat and 3 vegetables, plus 2 glasses of wine, 2 empty bowls, and 2 pairs of chopsticks at night, all of which were placed in the bamboo pin. When it's all ready. It was already half an hour later. When Bing left these things at the gate of his grandmother's house, then light 3 sticks of incense and 2 candles again. When the incense is finished, suddenly a rooster crows from the coop. When Bing shouted that it was not good, immediately rushed into my aunt's room, bite your middle finger in one bite, directly on the center of the aunt's eyebrows, and asked my grandfather to catch the biggest attack in the chicken coop. Grandpa didn't dare to slack off, hurriedly brought the big rooster of Lu Hua. When Bing took the rooster, a knife releases chicken blood around my aunt's bed, sprinkled in a circle, then exited the room. Walked to the case in front of the door where the head meal is placed. Eyes closed. Shout. Stupid. Then from the gossip bag on his body, he took out a sword and a large seal. The sword body was radiant with a chill. The appearance is a little simple and elegant. The junction between the blade and the hilt of the sword is completely on one side. The hilt of the sword is a gossip diagram. The great seal was cast in bronze, about the size of an adult's palm. It is engraved with the treasure of the Taoist master. The Taoist priest holds a sword in his right hand. Hold the seal in your left hand. Start reciting mantras. It's like the old man descending to earth, reading and reading. Suddenly, his right hand shook. See the light flash. Pick up a talisman on the table. See the ant on the paper bed. Sizzle. The rune paper is actually on fire. Then came the second rune. After the 2 runes were burned, Wenbin took out a piece of ink black paper, struggled to draw a spell. Then he sent the great seal for the first time. Press it again towards the black talisman, sticking it in my aunt's room. This time it's 8 talismans again, next to the 8 talismans that were pasted before. Then he closed the door and came out. When Bing asked his grandmother and grandfather to hurry to the reservoir with their 2 children, put the paper clothes and vegetable bowls you just prepared by the reservoir. Wait until dawn to come back. And don't be silent. Don't look in the direction of home. And ask the little uncle to bring the little black dog over to him. It was a long walk that day. On the way, my grandfather walked in front with a flat. Grandma walked behind with her third aunt and little uncle. According to one Bin's instructions, he walked to the dam of the reservoir. With your back to your home, light incense candles and set up the dishes and chopsticks, hiding in that small, dilapidated pumping room in the reservoir. Wait until dawn. After dawn, Grandma's family hurried home. When it comes to the doorstep, the gate is open. Grandma strode in, saw that when Bin had fallen outside his aunt's door, passed out in a coma. Grandpa hurried in to see his aunt. My aunt was lying on the bed and asleep. Nothing out of the ordinary. The 2 men glanced at each other, went to help Wenbin to rest in his room. At this time, Wenbin woke up, very weak, said to my grandmother, "It's all right. Let her rest well." Wenbin slept almost until the next night. I woke up at the same time as my aunt. When my aunt woke up, she said she was hungry. Grandma laid egg noodles for my aunt. Annie ate very well this time. Wenbin also got up for dinner. At dinner, my grandmother asked what had happened last night. Wenbin said, "The 2 imps heard the rooster crow. I guess it's going to be dawn. I'm ready to grab my soul." As he spoke, he glanced at the 2 things around him, great seal and treasure room, said with a wry smile, "If it weren't for these 2 things, I'm afraid they really got their hands on it. But for the time being, it's gone." Finished dinner. Grandma respectfully served tea to Wenbin, Then take out a bundle of great unity. Hand it to Wenbin. In the past, superstitious activities were carried out in the countryside. Ask a god or a fairy girl or something. It's good to wrap a red envelope after finishing things. Besides, it looks like my aunt is here. It's really not a big deal. So it is also appropriate to give a red envelope. Zhao Wenbin smiled and waved his hand. Sister-in-law, I am not afraid to do things for money. I can't take your red envelope. Cultivators are meant to help everyone. That's what I'm doing. What's more, the tutor is also destined for this child. You can't take any money. If only Master Zhu knew, I'll be to blame. Grandma's will. This benefactor saved his daughter's life, and he didn't take a penny. I really don't know what to do. Zhao Wenbin was blind to investigate. He continued. But the kid is fine. I'm afraid I'll have something to do with myself in the evening. Tonight, there is no going back alone. The imp was supposed to be the child's life. I hurt the way. Tonight is the night of the full moon again. The little ghost's resentment is very heavy. Guess so. You're coming to me tonight for revenge. If my master were alive, get rid of these two imps. It's not that hard. It's just that I'm limited in my reach. When the time comes, I'll have to ask my eldest brother to do me a favor. Grandpa quickly stood up and said, Benefactor has something to do. He commands. I'll do it. Zhang Wenbin patted the side, the head of a little black dog. I expected that these two little ghosts would pick me up on the way. Big brother, you go and help me find 3 pig killers and send me home. As long as I get home, these two little ghosts can't do anything to me. Those who kill pigs see blood all year round, and their bodies are murderous, and ordinary imps don't dare to go for trouble at all. Zavin needed 3 pig killers to accompany him home. It can be seen that these two little ghosts this time. It's really not easy. In those days, almost every village too, there is a pig killer. So find 3 pig killers. It's not that hard. Grandpa went out for a while, so he called 3 pig killers. Everyone was carrying a pig-killing knife. Grandpa kept things simple. Explained to the 3 pig killers. The 3 of them are all 5 big and 3 thick. Larry Lackle, a fierce look. Take the cigarette from the grandfather. A few more sips. Wait until 12 o'clock in the evening. From my grandmother's house. Send the scum soldiers home. Afterward, I've also been to verify these pig killers. 2 of them are still alive. They said. It was summer that night. But I felt that a cold wind was blowing all the time. Walking on the road, I always feel like someone is following behind. It's just that Zhang Wenbin didn't allow them to turn back. Don't speak. Let them have sharp knives in their hands. Surround him in the middle. Keep going. When Wenbin arrived home, he handed out a pack of cigarettes to everyone. There is also a bottle of wine and a blessing. Only then did the 3 of them go home. And shut yourself up at home. One pass is not going out for 7 days. The next day, my grandparents and aunts want to see her with things. She's all closed door. During the Zavin soldiers' retreat, my grandmother took my aunt to the hospital for a checkup. Everything turned out to be normal. Even the doctor who announced at the time that he wanted his grandmother to prepare for the future. It's incredible. For 7 days. On the morning of the 8th day, Zhao Wenbin opened the door. When my grandmother walked in, she asked my aunt to kneel down for Zhao Wenbin. 3 knocks. To thank the benefactor for saving his life. This Zhao Wenbin is also a cheerful person. Again declined my grandmother's money. Grandma wants to leave the money behind. Zhao Wenbin had no choice but to say, Hey, sister-in-law. Well, if you really want to thank me, then your little black dog. Can you give it to me? Not to mention a dog. It's just a fat pig. As long as it opens, Grandma will also send it over without hesitation. He immediately nodded and agreed. Let's go back. Let my grandfather send it over. Zhao Wenbin said. It's not that I'm going to covet anything from my sister-in-law's family. It's just that the dog opened its yin and yang eyes. It's a pure black dog again. Recognize ghosts. Put it in your house. Sooner or later, something will get into trouble. Put it here for me. It can be of some use. Sister-in-law, don't blame me. Later, I heard from my grandmother, uncle at that time. For that little black dog, I also lost my temper at home, crying through the nose. It's just, that dog really became Zhao Wenbin's partner. It appears in another story. Of course, that's another story. A few days passed. Zhao Wenbin came to visit. I had lunch at my grandmother's house. I went to the homes of 2 children who fell into the water. I asked where the child was salvaged and buried. Then I took the parents of the child to the grave hill together. At that time, when the child dies, he takes a broken shoe and rolls it up. Find a small hill bag and dig a pit and bury it. I didn't leave any tombstones or anything like that. On the way there, Zhao Wenbin asked the child's family. Asked them after the death of the child, have you ever been to the grave mountain again? The child's father said that he was afraid of being sad to see. I haven't been there since the child died. It was also buried with the help of others. They only know which mountain they are buried in. I don't know anything else. Zaven Bing holds the compass. Count as you go. The group walked all the way to the Pier Hill. Speaking of this Pier Mountain, I know that too. It's right across from the gate of my grandmother's house, on a very high mountain, because it's shaped like a horse. It was named Matu Mountain. And it's just one on the flats. Raised mountains. It feels a little weird. Wait for them to climb to the top of the mountain. The sun is about to go down. Finally found it. Bury the 2 children's little dirt bags. The grave is already overgrown with weeds. If it weren't for the earthy renovation, I really can't tell that this is a tomb. 2 families look at their children. Lie here and suffer. Sad thoughts came flooding up all at once. Fell to his knees and began to cry. Zhao Wenbin didn't care about them either. Just step around the grave and measure. After a cigarette, Wenbin had a little bottom in his heart, so he called the 2 families to stand together. Said to dig up the mound. Of course, the 2 families disagreed. The father of one of the children was going to beat him. If you break it, you will scold. Where did this fake Taoist priest come from? And dig up the graves of my children. Zhao Wenbin was not annoyed either. Asked them, do you know what kind of mountain it is? Of course everyone knows. This is Matu Mountain. Matu Mountain. Bullhead Horse Noodles. Right. This mountain is a post station in the Bullhead and Horse Noodles. The place where the children of your 2 families are buried. It's on this horseback. Give the cowhead and horse noodles to stay in the village. Made a pair of ghost-hooking ghosts. Eternal life shall not be exceeded. Alas. Get out of here. I'll do a ritual. A place. You don't want your own baby, either. And wreak tin in the earth. Everyone in the village knows about it. Annie's affair a few days ago. She said so. The 2 families were also a little scared. Thinking about your own doll, in case it really turns out to be what she said, that would be a sin. There is no peace after death. Discussed for a moment, the 2 men agreed. What about the people on the side? He began to run with his hoe. The 2 children were not buried deeply. It didn't take long to run to 2 straw mats. The moment the straw mat is opened, everyone froze. These 2 little kids. It's been more than 2 years since I died. It's still a little lifelike. It's as if you're halfway asleep. The 2 families were so frightened that they didn't dare to touch him anymore. To know. It's June Day. Not only is it not rotten, not even the taste. Zhao Wenbin mourned. Sighed. I didn't expect it to be like this. The bodies of the two dolls could no longer be brought into the village. Otherwise, sooner or later there will be a plague. The ashes were buried somewhere again. Everyone knows that people rot when they die. But the appearance of these two dolls. It's not haunted. What's wrong? Now it is up to this Taoist priest to decide. Where do outsiders dare to say more than half a word? Zhao Wenbin instructed everyone to build a shelf on the spot with dry firewood. Wait for the firewood rack to be set up. Zhao Wenbin ordered the two corpses to be put up. 3 more boxes were inserted in the front. After one glance, he lit the fire. He began to recite the mantra of transcendence. Send the 2 imps to report to the underworld. After burning, the ashes were collected. He led the people down the mountain. The ashes of the 2 children were buried on the edge of the reservoir. He also gave him a cup. By this time it was already dark. Zonbin first went to his grandmother's house for dinner. Then he took his leave and went home. My aunt had a dream that night. I dreamed that 2 children came to say goodbye to her and make clothes for her. Let her thank a Taoist priest. The next day, my grandmother went to Zhao Wenbin to interpret the dream. Zhao Wenbin nodded and said, "Those 2 imps should be gone. And let the grandmother take a message to warn the villagers. The dead cannot be buried on the pier hill in the future." Although my aunt is fine, but after that fuss, I am also often not in good health, prone to colds. It wasn't until she became an adult that she got better. Zhao Wenbin passed through such a thing. It's getting famous. There are also many people who have funerals. Go and ask her to overdo it. But he never took a penny. There are children about my age in any village. Frightened, I went to him. What about Zhao Wenbin? It's usually a symbol. Just boil the water and drink it. Of course, he also knows a little bit about Chinese medicine. Sometimes it's not evil but sickness. He would also prescribe some herbs. If it is serious, it is recommended to go to the hospital. At that time, many people also went to apprenticeship. I want to learn this craft from him. But Zhao Wenbin never accepted apprentices. It's usually the same as ordinary people. Go down to work in the fields and go up the mountain to chop wood. If there is no such thing as an ant, people don't even know. She is a Taoist priest. As for me seeing her, that was many years later. I was 6 years old that year. Something happened. Our village is also mountainous. There is a big temple in our village. It's still built of gray bricks. Listen to Dad. I don't know which dynasty and which generation that temple belonged to. When our great-grandfather fled from a foreign country, there is that temple. But by then, there was no one to manage it. It looks even more shabby. The 60s of the last century, a large part of the temple was set on fire. The bricks of the entire temple wall were burned red. Only the main hall was left unburned. Gradually, there are man-made houses or something. So I went there and picked bricks to build a house. But I don't know how. A house built with bricks from these temples. But it's easy to pour. Stoned a family to death. And later, they used the bricks to make pigsties. We also have a brick in our house. What about the bricks? That brick was heavy and heavy. One side is carved with a unicorn. The other side is bare. As it is now, it should be a relief brick. I was picked up by my dad when he was a kid. What about this thing? It's about a temple. Listen to the older generation. That temple. It's called the General's Temple. As for our poor ravine, what generals have been out? I really don't know. There are also hundreds of families in the village, but most of them have migrated from other places. People of origin here. It is said to have been during the Taiping Heavenly Kingdom, killed by a golden light, so no one knows. The origin of that general's temple. Fortunately, Li was there, neither getting in the way nor blocking the knife. Everyone is used to its existence. When children in the countryside were young, they had to go up trees to dig birds' nests. It is to go into the water to fish and shrimp, or just hide and seek. I'm a naturally bold person. I don't know what it means to be afraid. I have a good friend who is a day away from me. It's called Li, because I grew thin when I was a child. Let's call him Monkey. I once went to the general's temple with the monkeys. There is always a smell of that temple. I can't tell. Somewhat similar to a moldy taste. If anyone has an old ancestral hall at home, especially where there is an art village, it's empty. But where the gate is closed, a similar smell can be heard. But I was curious about the taste, always trying to find out where the source is. That day, I'm just with the monkey with a little red glow that is a year younger than me. Go there and play together. Actually, we're both little villains. 3 people play the game. It is to learn from doctors to play with injections. How to play it. Usually, it was me and the monkeys who took turns being doctors. Xiao Hongxia is a patient. Give him a physical examination. At that time, I didn't understand the affairs of men and women. I only know that the posture of female dolls is different from that of our male dolls. So this game of doctors examining the body came in. Check the little red man's body. Give her an injection. One is the game. The second is to let us know. Why is the posture of peeing different?